Good evening, everybody. This is Robin for another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight, and my guest is writer and filmmaker Matt Szakal, right?
Yes, sir. That's it.
And, of course, an old friend of mine I've known for a while, Justin Main. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, so Matt, how'd you come up in making a Crow fan film? What was going through your mind?
Right from the beginning, it was a really interesting dynamic because Justin hired me for the project, and when he hired me, he obviously led with him being a massive fan of the franchise and wanting to inject some new influences and some new flavors and textures into that franchise. And honestly, I think for the longest time while making it, I didn't actually have a lot of relationship to the franchise at all, which might be a little sacrilegious to certain people, but with Justin as a very great guide, I would say, I wanted to be the other end of the seesaw and kind of just be all new influence. And I just wanted to represent some sort of these new things that Justin wanted to bring to all this old mythology that he knew about the series and all of that. And so I think he and I really worked really well as a two-headed monster for this thing. So my relationship with Crow and the franchise has been relatively recent. I only just now started taking in some parts of the comics and and he and I are actually going to be watching the movie for the first time soon. Well, he's seen it, but I'll be watching it for the first time very soon. But that was a very intentional thing, just to keep things fresh.
So, Matt, you're going to get your Crow cherry popped.
I am. Oh, yeah, dude.
And Justin's Justin's going to be loving it. He's going to be sitting staring at you watching that film going, yeah, you better soak this in.
Just
I am
the whole time.
I'm very interested to see his thoughts on the film, to be honest. Besides the fact that I trust Matt, I've worked with him a few times in the past prior to Crow. And besides the fact that I trust him and I knew his creativity, his work ethic, his strength as a filmmaker, as a writer, director, I knew the film would be in good hands with him at the helm of it. So that was never under question, but it was almost kind of by design that I wanted him to come on board to almost instill a fresh take on the franchise. Because as you know, Robin, the franchise itself has kind of developed into tropes, especially with the films, right?
Yes.
So there are certain little things that each film does, and while some of that is great, I think it's also been at the franchise's detriment, where they rely on those tropes in order to be a Crow film, and some of them work, but yet some of them don't. And over a period of time, that freshness behind the story just kind of died, and thus the quality died as well. And unfortunately, that from what I've seen from the franchise's fans, they completely we can swear, right?
Yes. This is my show, damn it.
Okay.
Matt, Justin, you guys can say fuck.
There's a good majority of fans shit on the franchise, and sometimes for good reason, but sometimes for not. I think Salvation was a really, really good sequel. However, but it didn't have Brandon Lee in it. It didn't have the same production value or the same budget. Still a great story, great acting. There's other great parts of it, but a lot of people didn't like it. And I think part of that was because every single sequel after the original tried to recreate the original. And that was an intentional decision on our behalf, was to not do that. We wanted to throw our own interpretation, our own vision of what the universe could be like, and have a different spin on it. So having Matt at the helm of that was, I think, a key component of why the film turned out as well as it did.
Yeah, Justin, you play the main character, the Crow, in the film, and
Yes.
I watched it. How'd you prepare for that role? Because you really went like mentally deep with your emotions. I mean, like dark and sinister. So how did you turn that on and off like that? You were really into that role.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can go into the acting techniques that I use, but I'd rather go into the mindset that I have.
Yes.
For me, it was more so creating this backstory for the Dean character, creating his life prior to this film, and why the events in the film land as heavily as they do with him. To me, you need an anchor in emotional roles like that. You need to have a particular reason as to why whatever event happens in a film affects the character the way it does. And in order to really get the most out of the character, out of the role, to me, I really feel needs to be firmly established within the character's psyche and within the character's backstory, especially with the relationships with other characters. Like Sam in the film, in my head, the way I built up Dean's backstory, like Sam was really the only person that he had in his life still. He lost both of his parents in a car accident. We didn't really
get into
explain this in the film.
Yeah.
This is just in my character's backstory. And if we were to ever do, future projects, this would be something we could explore a little bit more. But it was, an intentional decision to put that into my character's head, because if he loses Sam, then he has nobody. And he's already suffered a lot of loss. He's already suffered a lot of trauma in his life. So for me to get into that role, I had to really get into that mindset. I really had to focus on getting getting deep enough to where I felt like isolation whenever somebody or something was pulled away from me. It was an intentional thing, and at times it was hard to pull out. I remember this one specific moment. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen the film yet, but there's this one scene in the movie that when we were shooting it, I had to go into a really dark place of the building that we were shooting in. I think I was listening to a specific playlist that was curated for my character. I just listened to it nonstop for like 15, 20 minutes. I just kept envisioning certain key things that helped me get into the place that I needed to be at for my character's moment in that film. And I remember we shot it. It was an extreme close-up of the character's like eyes and face, and there's no dialogue. I'm literally telling the story with just my expression in the shot. And I think we did 3 takes of that. And as soon as we were done, I had to walk off set. And normally you can kind of pull yourself out of stuff. At least for me, it's never been too much of an issue. But in this particular moment, I was stuck for like 10 minutes. I was literally bawling my eyes out, like outside of the building. Like I was just sitting outside by myself, and I could not stop crying. And it was hard to pull out. But I mean, sometimes that's the nature of the beast with acting and with films like this. You just kind of have to get, in order for the role to land as heavily as it does, you need to be able to get to that point. And it was worth it.
Yes, Matt. Since you were filming it as well, I loved how you guys did the dark scenes with the camera, it felt like I was really reading a legit Crow comic book. It felt like the darkness and the certain angles and shots you did in the building. It felt like I was watching a horror action comic book. How did you guys shoot the certain scenes and angles on the certain fight scenes?
Oh wow! Wow, I'm glad that you picked that up because that was totally intentional, man. Like, just our cinematographer, Peter Poulos, master, is like great, one of the best in Michigan. We had talked really early on about a few different visual concepts and stuff. We were doing a lot of location scouts, and with the budget that we had, it's more of a work with what you have mentality. And so what we had was a lot of these orange street lights you see whenever you're walking down. So we're just okay, so how do we double down on that? So we're just thinking deep shadows, orange. A good one is Gordon Willis from a guy who shot The Godfather, or even Manhattan, Woody Allen. But that was one element. But then going more towards the graphic novel thing, that was really something I wanted to think of, because I don't go out of my way to watch a whole lot of comic book movies. I don't mind them. But I've grown up reading Batman graphic novels my whole life. Spider-Man too. And I'm also a huge Doctor Doom fan. I love Doctor Doom. But no, with Crow, I wanted to make something that was a little bit more. It had a foot in each camp. It was a comic book movie, but it had a graphic novel sort of. I don't know, as a comic book fan, a graphic novel, it's a different thing almost. Mm-hmm. It's a little more mature. It's a little more contained, and and that's also why certain parts of the film, the size of the frame actually kind of changes and morphs, because on part with the shadows and how I wanted the color grading to sort of match with deep shadows, shadow work and whatnot. The frame size in a comic book or graphic novel changes pretty frequently. So I wanted to use all the emotions and the stress and the tension that was going on in the narrative to sort of motivate this just sort of you're in the garbage shooting A New Hope, where it's it's just closing. Yeah. It's just closing and closing. And it's and after a while, you almost kind of forget it's happening. You're there's parts of your body that's they are responding to it that aren't even conscious. I'm really trying to get to that point with my directing. But no, it was just a really interesting, as far as the fight sequences go too, that was something I was admittedly out of my element on, because I had never shot anything like that before. Yeah. And luckily, I didn't have to do a whole lot, because we had Justin and Robert Lanin, or Bobby Lanin. I think he likes going by Bobby. But no,
he prefers Bobby for sure.
Okay, cool. Just I never remember. But no, they were both insanely just insanely diligent, insanely badass, and just very creative with the fight choreography. So honestly, a lot of what I did was I just kind of watched them, and I interjected where I felt I needed to, just to make sure the flow of the movie worked. Because I admittedly I didn't know what I was with a fight scene. I didn't know what I was talking about, so I really just didn't want to intrude on them as much. But really, it was just as far as the fight scenes go, my contribution to that was just making sure that graphic novel visual style kind of just stayed intact, because we were working really fast, and my worry was we could lose ourselves in the adrenaline, because we shot so much of that in just 2 days. And those fight scenes I'm really happy with how that last one turned out. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the film also has a little bit of a Sin City vibe too.
You think so? Oh yeah, dude. Hell yeah. May I ask why do you think so?
Well, the reason why I got it is because, the certain lighting, the certain scenes, or the certain buildings you use, and plus Justin, is the Crow, gave that Sin City vibe. There's a story behind it where he was trying to bring it. because when you watch the film, when Justin is playing the Crow, you see him having these flashback scenes, of the woman he really loved, and losing his like baby, not his baby, but his wife, was pregnant, and he lost all that. You can feel the emotion through it. Kind of remind me of a Sin City movie, because if you watch a Sin City movie, you feel the emotions off the characters and what they were going through. That's the kind of vibe I got through the film. That's why I kind of say it was like a little Sin City-ish.
Yeah, no, like he's is it Mickey Rourke, the guy who's in the,
yeah,
it reminds me a lot of that, because like he speaks a lot with his face. He doesn't really talk.
Yeah, what Justin did. Yeah,
Justin is a master. He doesn't realize how much of a master he is at that. Because he's I'm a huge sucker for that stuff. He's like expressive, like facial storytelling with the acting stuff. It's great.
And then some of the fight and choreography that Justin did, I thought he nailed it pretty good, because he has a pro wrestling background. So some of his moves and hits he did, you can kind of tell there are a few little pro wrestling moves in there. I mean, if you're not like a wrestling fan, you're not going to pick it up. But
monkey flip on the roof for sure is definitely a pro wrestling move.
Oh my god,
that was for sure. I remember Bobby. The funny thing was, that wasn't even my idea. That was Bobby's idea. And he's like, "Yeah, you're just gonna roll to your back, and then you're gonna flip me over. Like you're gonna kick me up and flip me over." I'm like, "Oh yeah, monkey flip, right?" And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, in pro wrestling we call that a monkey flip." And he's like, "Yeah, that, whatever." So it was just it was funny when we were putting that together, because that was something that we intentionally wanted to do. We didn't want the fight scene itself goes in a very interesting direction, so we didn't need to add, on top of that, just like logically, just didn't make any sense for the characters to have, the super flashy fight scene. They weren't, experienced martial artists or boxers or anything like that. They were two guys that legitimately just don't like each other. They're not flashy individuals, so we had to, with the fight scene, we had to make it feel like that. We had to make it feel like, it was messy and erratic and a brawl. Like they are just trying to kill each other. And that's it. That's period. And even with the cinematography in that scene, we wanted the cinematography to match that feeling. At certain points, we stay wide to show what's happening in the action, but at other points, we wanted to pull in a little bit closer, or push in a little bit closer to make you feel like you're inside the fight. And that was, in regards to planning it, that was something that we intentionally did, especially in pre-production. Like Bobby and I got together and did a pre-viz fight for that scene itself. So much so, there's a funny story behind this. I actually put a hole in my old apartment wall. Yeah, that was fun. And I just moved out of that apartment. Too. So we had to patch that before we officially moved out. But yeah, no, we pre-viz that whole fight, and I will say the big game-changing moment of that fight with the flashbacks, that was all Matt's idea.
That was wild.
That was something that he had come up with, and we elaborated on it. We built it up as much as we possibly could, and we tried to go as far as we could with that scene. But that was all Matt's idea for that too.
Yeah, we kind of came up with that during the location scouts, like as we were kind of going from place to place to place. Because I respond. What's hard for me sometimes in pre-production is like I respond to space very, very much. I can't really help it. So like sometimes I gotta be in the place before my ideas start going.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a story first, it can be like a feedback, a weird like paradox thing. But every time I visited like the junkyard, like even like the roof of that apartment building that we were at, I could start seeing like the points in which we could like jump from location to location to location. It was all I don't know, it came really naturally. And just hearing, and like Justin and Bobby, they wanted more excuses than anything to like put more stuff in there, because like their enthusiasm for the combat was like so fun to watch. Like I'm even like Man, I haven't. Oh man, it was so much fun. Bobby came up with some crazy ideas that weren't even in the movie. He wanted to fly off the building at one point. He wanted to.
Yeah. That's a true story. He wanted to take a fall off of a 40-foot building. Actually, I don't even think it was 40 feet. I think it was like 50 or 60 feet. He wanted to do a 6-story fall.
Yeah, it was about 6 stories. Yeah.
I immediately shot that down. He's like, "Oh, that's fine. I got a pad for that." I'm like, "No, Bobby, we're not doing no." He's like. Can I at least? Yeah. He wanted to do the billboard too. He's like, "Come on, that's only like 20 feet. That's an easy fall." I'm like, Bobby, no. But yeah, no.
That's wild. The one wild scene I liked in the film was the part where the crow grabbed one of the bad guys and started slamming his head like a sledgehammer to the table, blood splattering everywhere, and I'm like, dude, I'm waiting for his face to explode. And you see it, him, slamming his face real hard, and he goes back to flashback where he was dead, and he was like slamming him with the back of the trunk. It was like wham, wham, wham. That was wild.
Yeah, that was another one of those location ideas, because the first thing I thought of when I saw that table, because there was an idea where in one of the earlier drafts of the script that was in there, but just the rhythm of the editing and whatnot, that had a few different things. It was like back to the graphic novel thing. I actually kind of wanted it to feel almost like a flip book at the end, or like a piece of film that just kept going at the end of its reel or whatever. And I don't know. I love how that turned out myself, because it's like, I thought it'd be interesting to try an idea that, like, he hits this man so hard, it breaks the movie that he's in, which I think I was literally thinking about that mentally the entire time. And I was like, oh man. I think a lot of people in the crew will be like, he's really getting giddy about this head smashing scene. It's a little disturbing.
I remember how much time you spent on editing that thing together too. So he got super giddy about that.
Hey, I loved it. I was sitting there laughing. If I was watching this at the theater, I'd be laughing, and film goers would be like, this guy's nuts. Why is he laughing at that? I'd be laughing at it like a pure enjoyment. I'm like, yeah, smash that face in, man. Come on. So
a few of the theater screenings that we've had, like, that's, you kind of see a commonality of when people react in the film, and that was one of those scenes in the film where unanimously everybody reacts to it, whether it's like this visceral, like gross like reaction, or people laugh immediately as soon as it's done, and it's because of how fucking brutal it is. It's like, we don't even glance at it. It's just like, it's so in your face. It's so, to me, it's very punk rock. It's a very punk rock scene.
Oh yeah,
and it's just so in your face. And I think the first reaction a lot of people have as soon as they are released from the intensity of it, they just start, they have this like nervous laugh. They're like, like that type of thing. And it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. So when you guys did this fan film, because there's a lot of great fan films out there, and Hollywood should be looking at them because there's some phenomenal ones. So when you started showing your film to the festivals, and you can also watch it on YouTube, what were some of the results from some of the Crow fans that checked it out for the first time, that were like really Crow fans and wanted something fresh?
So that's the super interesting thing about the whole release and the reaction since then. Because I remember when we first put out the official trailer, we got a lot of great feedback, and it got shared pretty quickly. We got, like, I think within 2 days, we had like 36,000 views. And we have keep in mind, we came from literally having less than 500 subscribers. It got shared like 20,000 times on Facebook in a matter of like a day or two. So it got passed around pretty quickly, and it got so much attention that people actually started thinking it was the official remake to the film, to the original film, because of the way it looked and the way it came out. And because of that, there's this, as you know, as a Crow fan, like, there's this whole sacrilegious thing that you cannot do anything that, potentially harms Brandon Lee's spirit. And that was where a lot of Crow fans, I mean, there's two different types of Crow fans. You have your Crow fans that love the franchise, they love the comics, they love the films, they love everything about the Crow. And then you have your Brandon Lee fans, and they will not accept anything else but Brandon Lee. And they will shit, and they will say it is sacrilege, and they will just literally, they will say some of the nastiest shit to you because you are doing something that they deem as disrespectful to Brandon Lee.
Oh, I can totally see that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the first trailer that we released was pretty mixed because of that. We got a lot of good positive reactions, but we also got a lot of negative reactions from Brandon Lee fans and from some Crow fans because they were hesitant about, anything else being put out there, especially if it wasn't high quality. And when we put the film out, that reaction pretty much flipped. The last time I checked, I have to check out the likes today, but I think we have like thousands of positive likes on there, and then I think there's like less than 800 negatives.
Wow, that's good though, man.
It's like an 80 to 90% like positive reaction. Like I think we're sitting at like a 7.2 in IMDb, and the original Crow film was a 7.5.
Wow, that's amazing.
The other Crow films, the other Crow sequels they're like 5 and under on IMDb. We have thousands of positive reviews on there from Crow fans and from general population. Like a lot of people, whether they're familiar with the franchise or not, seem to be really relating, and they're really interested in the story that we're putting forth. I mean, it is a fan film, and we were very limited in budget, so there's only so many things that you can do and get away with, and unless you have like $1 million or $5 million budget, which we didn't have. But with what we did have and the resources that we had access to, I think we really got the most out of it, and I think it shows in the film that as long as we were serving the story correctly and being respectful to the story, that everything was going to work out in a positive and a good manner. So it's been, for the most part, a really great, fantastic reaction to the film, and that's something I'm extremely happy about.
So when you guys did the fan film, did you guys ever reach out to the creator who created the Crow in the comics and all that? Did he ever check that out? Or
yes, so James O'Barr is the original comic book creator. He was the guy who wrote the first original comics, or their character, and then it eventually got adapted into graphic novel form. So when we released the first teaser trailer back in September 2020, someone had passed it along to him, and he had reached out to our Crow Facebook page, and basically, it was short, but he said, very intriguing, best of luck. And to me, like, James O'Barr is like my Stan Lee, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if to a Spider-Man fan, if Stan Lee reached out to them and was like, hey, I love what you're putting out there, kid, like, good work, like, that's James O'Barr to me. So, like, I immediately bursted out into tears. I was crying, like, happy fucking tears and shit. And it was just a great reaction. And ever since then, like, he's publicly, like, talked about our film. He's publicly supported it. He's been very interested in everything that we've put out thus far. I'm still waiting to get feedback on the film itself. But from what I understand, he's liked everything that we put out. So, as soon as I know, then you'll know, but we'll see.
So where can everybody find you guys on social media?
Oh, you go ahead, Justin.
I'm like, so for the Crow fan film, we have a few different social media pages. We have Crow fan film page, which is that's the Facebook page. We have Crow fan film, which is Instagram. We have Film Crow, which is Twitter. We have a TikTok. I believe that one's Crow fan film as well. Then we have a website where all these links are on. It's www.crowfanfilm.com. For me, I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Just look up Justin May and you'll find me pretty quickly.
And you, Matt?
No, so for my Instagram, I'm just on Instagram at the moment. It's FFZakes, SZAKES. And then Justin and I are also part of an art collective, like filmmaking kind of group. Well, we do a little bit more about music, filmmaking, art, just in general. We're part of a collective called Casper House. It's one word. It starts with a K, and it's house like German, like HAUSE. Casper House is on Instagram. And we're kind of developing a lot of really exciting stuff. Crow related and not crow related. So, I mean, follow us there for more art stuff, which is really going to be, which I'm really excited about.
All right. You guys, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Justin, I mean, for, doing this, man. I always have a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having us, Robin. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.